Warmly welcome to Supply Chain Talks. My name is Kristian Kaas Mortensen, and I'm a Senior Director, Global Partnership and Alliances at project44. And today, I'm also your host for Supply Chain Talks. project44 has hand-curated a strong partner network in order to extend and enable the best possible customer experience. During spring and early summer, we welcome you to our partner series, Supply Chain Talks. These conversations touch on current developments in global supply chain and the world of logistics. And today, I'm happy and we warmly welcome Georgia Leybourne to Supply Chain Talks. Georgia is Senior Director, International Marketing at Manhattan Associates. Georgia, I'm truly pleased to have you join.
Well, from my perspective, Kristian, it's an honor. Thank you so much for the invitation. project44 is a valued partner for us here at Manhattan Associates, and it's always a pleasure to work with you guys. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Georgia, for the third year in a row, Manhattan is recognized as a leader in the 2021 Gartner Magic Quadrant for TMS. What's behind that success?
Isn't it fabulous? We couldn't be more proud of our position. You know, the Gartner Magic Quadrant for TMS is well established and vastly esteemed within the community. And to be frank, we've been focusing long and hard on securing this valued position. It doesn't come without a few, bits of effort. And I think our success is a mixture of several elements. It's never one thing, it's always a combination. I think the product itself, Kristian, speaks for itself. It's evolved enormously over the years. It's very focused on the customer and the customer requirements, and it's got a really broad set of capabilities. So I think from a product perspective, we definitely, tick all the right boxes. But I know that something that's been crucial and close to Gartner's heart has been our presence internationally. And in the last couple of years, we have onboarded some really strong brands here in EMEA and also in Asia Pacific. So it's truly now got global coverage. And another secret weapon is our vast network of partners who add value to the TMS proposition, with visibility capabilities, mapping, marketplace offers, and carrier integration. And of course, that's where our relationship comes in from the visibility perspective, such a crucial part of the equation. So fundamentally, for us to be recognized, we've got to tick a few boxes in terms of breadth and depth of underlying technology, interoperability with other systems, geographical coverage, number of customers, and also investment. And we are fortunate that we are progressing every year in moving that placement up into the right-hand corner.
Yeah, once more, congratulations. And I think a key to your success is exactly in your response, you were mentioning customers. And I think because you mentioned customers and the fact that Manhattan is so customer-centric is key to success. But what are the new requirements and needs that you see from your customers?
So this is where it gets quite interesting because, of course, our customers have their own customers. And whether it's in the warehouse, in the store, or on the road, our customers are looking to create a seamless buyer journey for their customer. So, I mean, talk about customer-centric, it truly is. So our customers are looking to create, efficient, streamlined supply chains that have a minimal impact on the environment. And that last element is becoming more and more important. They want value and they want return from the investment that they make. And they want an open, honest, and insightful relationship with us, their supplier, and indeed all their suppliers. If I get granular and talk about specifics, I think every single conversation is peppered with cloud, mobile, real-time insight, and I think everybody mentions enterprise real-time single views of customer and inventory. So quite similar discussions happening amongst all customers, but customers really are at the core of it for sure.
Georgia, Manhattan, more or less, you can say globally now, but at least here in Europe, you work with some of the biggest companies and you work to unlock value in their supply chain and their logistics operations. Could you share some insights how you engage in the market, or perhaps what kind of customers you work with?
Sure. So continuing that customer-centric theme, we truly do inherently believe that customer is king. Now, I think we all know that we can find similarities amongst larger organizations. At the end of the day, a lot of the challenges that we're experiencing are the same. But I also think it's fair to say that every single customer is unique. And I think one of the ways that Manhattan really cuts their mark in the industry is by developing comprehensive solutions which are feature-rich, highly configurable, scalable, agile. But because we listen to the customer and understand their business, what we're doing is creating a technology that supports what they want to achieve, rather than expecting them to adapt to our technology. There's a real subtle difference there. And this is where it gets more complicated, because I'm sure you can imagine, with 1,500 customers globally and with 30 years experience behind us, there are some engagements that we'll get involved in where we might spot a potential improvement that we feel the customer could make. And so delicately, we will encourage and advise and perhaps propose an alternative way forward if we feel there's something that we could bring to the party that could improve their current circumstances. But fundamentally, our responsibility is to listen and make sure our technology is giving the customer what it is that they want.
Georgia, when I was preparing for our conversation today, it kind of impressed me. I didn't realize that Manhattan is that big in terms of employees. If I understand it, you have 3,400 plus team members globally. And that kind of make me think, how did you and your colleagues adapt overnight, not just to work from home, but more importantly also how to implement from a distance? Because you have to implement Manhattan, and normally you can go on site, and now all of a sudden you couldn't.
Well, absolutely. And yes, it is a very large team that we have. Now, the thrust of that team is R&D and services, because we do implement our own solutions. And I have to tell you that whether in services, sales, general admin, our Manhattan associates took to remote working like ducks to water. And we could not have been more surprised by how well they adapted. We were simply amazed at how easily we were able to undertake an implementation 100% remotely, or a training course, or a design session. It was phenomenal. We were very, very fortunate that we were already running our business in the cloud. So, if I put a big shout out to our own network admin team, they had us working on all of the latest technology. We were already very, very well connected as a business. So remote working was not, a new thing to us. It was something that we were perfectly capable of doing. But interestingly, the biggest challenge was the families trying to find room and bandwidth in amidst children or, other partners working within the home environment, rather than the sort of connectivity and access to, internal applications. But again, it's people. I mean, from a customer perspective, the trust we had already gained in that relationship held us in good stead to convert everything to remote. And I remember one customer, we literally put an entire workhouse live without going on site once. And their only complaint during the whole process was that they didn't have an excuse to order in pizza for the extended project team. It was just one of those, we really missed the pizza, because you can't really do that virtually. But it was really interesting later on in the pandemic, as we kind of got settled into the process. Not only did we implement remotely, but there was one customer who we nurtured from a marketing perspective, converted to a sales opportunity, closed the contract, went through the design session, and put them live implementation wise, and we never even met them. So we are really looking forward to having a kind of post-project party to celebrate the great relationship that we've developed.
You make me smile outside and inside from such stories. Thank you. How did Manhattan's customers react, let's say, to the recent supply chain disruptions, ranging from the global pandemic to the more recent blockades in the Suez Canal? What are the customers you engage with talking about, and what are they considering with all this in mind?
So, gosh, what a whirlwind the last 18 months has been, Kristian. I mean, 2020 brought any friction anyone was experiencing in the supply chain into sharp relief and truly escalated the need for companies to modernize their technology. Anyone harboring legacy within their supply chain has felt the pain of not being able to adapt during the pandemic. And it was interesting, a colleague of mine brought this to life when the Ever Given got stuck in the Suez Canal. They felt it represented a classic metaphor to all supply chains about the importance of modernizing one's thinking, of upgrading our systems and keeping on top of maintenance to ensure smooth running operations. It kind of told a story that the old monolithic supply chain model is simply not equipped to compete in a world of complexity, agility, disruption, and speed. The Ever Given, the disruption resultant in the supply chain was phenomenal. And like the global coronavirus pandemic, it underscored the shortcomings of the old supply chain model and the critical need for organizations to shift. We do engage very closely with companies about modernization and digitization. Supply chain is at the front of everyone's agenda currently. And cloud is at the top of that list, and the pull of cloud native microservices architected applications, because it's that technology that gives people agility and scalability and that always on concept. So it's, if anything, the disruption of the last 18 months has just brought it to the fore. People are much more aware of the supply chain.
Picking up on your mentioning or even repeated mentioning of cloud, a recent Gartner report suggests that 57% of CEOs are planning on redeveloping or upgrading their supply chain to better adapt to the demands of the current supply chain industry. What or how have you seen this on your end of the industry?
Oh, it's so true. It is absolutely, I think it's on all CEO agendas, to be fair. Within the last 5 years, we have seen the supply chain come center stage. It's finally the logistics team have a seat at the table and everyone is talking about them. And to be fair, I've seen the Gartner survey, but I've seen several surveys that have made it very clear that investment is afoot for the supply chain in the coming years. For me, there are several things that come to mind with regards to CEOs focusing on this area. In the past, I remember when I first got into supply chain, Kristian, and my mother was like, what is that? I don't understand. It was almost like one of these careers that everyone was confused about. Now, if I had the opportunity to go to a dinner party, which of course I don't currently, but if I did, I'm pretty certain that when I said I was in supply chain, everybody would know what I meant. Another area where I think CEOs are very focused is on that intricate relationship between people, process, and technology. Modernizing the supply chain is not just about buying a new bit of software or sticking a robot into your warehouse or, adding mobile visibility capabilities to your TMS infrastructure. It's about the delicate balance between who you're employing, what they're doing, how they're operating, and the technology that you're putting at their disposal. The supply chain is an intricate mix of those three, and if you touch one, it's going to affect another. And the interesting thing is that each element has a question. So, do I invest in humans or robots, or a combination of the two? Is it single picks or replenishment waves that are causing me a problem? Or is it the combination of both? And can I run them simultaneously? Should I go centralized or decentralized? Should I go on-premise or in the cloud? It's like every single one has a question and there are pros and cons for each. So it's a real jigsaw puzzle. And I think the other challenge that CEOs have is cutting through the noise. You know, marketing is pretty good these days, and we're capable of spinning a yarn and getting our voices out there. There's a lot of noise in the marketplace. And I think CEOs have a responsibility to pick through, I always call it the sexy tech that doesn't do anything versus the true innovations that are going to pack a punch to the core of your business. But prioritizing is not an insignificant task. In my view, at the moment, we're at an inflection point, and I honestly believe that CEOs across the world are asking themselves, is it going to cost me more to make an investment to transform, or is it going to cost me more to do nothing? And I think the latter is going to cost people more in the long run, so they've got to do something.
That's actually let's say kind of a deep point, actually, but it's straight to the point. My last question: when it comes to supply chain and digitalization, what is the one thing that has not changed or evolved in the last 20 years? And what's the one thing that really has changed?
Well, I'm not sure I'm equipped to answer that question. I mean, I'm only one after all. I mean, please. No, I flatter myself. I've been around for well long enough to make a comment on this. So I've got a few things that I think have changed. I've got a few things that I think haven't changed. So let me start with that which hasn't changed. I can distinctly remember when I first took my first role in the 90s, having conversations with people about the damage legacy technology has on their efficiency as a business. That was 30 odd years ago that we were worried about legacy. And I honestly believe that that is still a resounding issue in the industry today. You know, the time has never been more appropriate for modern technology, which is always on. And I just really feel that hasn't changed. Another thing that I don't think has changed at all is the importance of people, whether that be the customer or the employee. You know, people are, we constantly have to focus on people. They're an important resource. We've got a bit of a capacity crunch at the moment. I think we had a capacity crunch 20 years ago. We had new regulations to comply with 20 years ago, and we've got new regulations to comply with today. So I think people and considering them in the mix hasn't changed at all. I think it's still very much a focus. But I think a lot has changed. So three things I would mention here: robots and automation. I don't think any of us could have imagined the innovation that we see today. I mean, we've got drones being used in warehouses for cycle counting. We've got Alexa who can help us track an order. And we've got GPS that is monitoring drivers in lorries and probably knows what their favorite cafe is because they go there on each route up and down the M1. So robots and automation, wow. Another area of technology that I think is phenomenal is virtualization. And whether we're talking about the virtualization of your infrastructure or whether we're talking about the virtualization of your inventory pool, the fact is that the sheer size of real estate required to house those servers or to house that inventory has narrowed down thanks to technology enabling us to have virtual environments and consolidated inventory pools. And then the other thing that I think has changed enormously, Kristian, which affects both of our businesses hugely, is traffic out on the roads. So if we think specifically about transportation management 20 years ago and we think about it today, it's kind of a different beast altogether because of the traffic, the routes available, the different modes on offer. So the need for modeling, optimization, and visibility is just huge. Now to wrap up, I do have three things that I think may have changed, but not for the better. One of them is hairstyles, and I'm not going to say anything more about that. The second one is speed and everyone's desire to have everything today or tomorrow. And I just don't get it. I mean, you know, we can all go on Amazon and order a packet of screws, but do we really need it this afternoon? I'm sure that DIY job can wait until tomorrow. And then there's size. And this one is a real conundrum to me. I mean, 30 years ago, when I first had a mobile telephone, it was a Nokia brick. It was this huge, heavy device. And then as we moved into the noughties, I got one of those cute little pebble flip phones, the tiny ones. And now we've gone back to these huge, massive tablet phones. So the speed and size evolution, I just don't get at all. Shouldn't have changed.
Georgia, what a pleasure. What a privilege to talk to you. But that's not just today, that's in everyday conversations with you. Thank you for joining Supply Chain Talks. Thank you for your friendship. And thank you for Manhattan and project44 being great partners.
You're more than welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.